The loudest noise in the universe is the silence between two people who want to talk but are too afraid to speak. You feel it, don't you? The heaviness in the air. You know they are thinking about you, and the truth is, you are thinking about them too. But there is a standoff. They are desperate to reach out, to hear your voice, to fix what was broken. But they are paralyzed by one terrifying question: how will she react? They know you are a Sigma. They know you don't do second chances easily. They are wondering if you will welcome them back, or if you will destroy them with silence. Here are the 9 signs that they are dying to reach out, but your strength is making them hesitate. 1. The drafting paralysis, typing and deleting. If you could peer through the digital veil and look directly at their phone screen right now, you would witness a chaotic, silent struggle that defines the modern state of longing. The chat log between you, which appears dormant on your end, is actually alive with the ghostly activity of drafting paralysis on theirs. The 3 dots appear, pulsing with the promise of communication, only to vanish into the ether moments later, a cycle that repeats itself dozens of times a day. This is not merely indecision, it is a profound psychological siege. They have written the "I miss you" text in 10 different variations, each one subjected to a brutal internal review process that would rival a high-stakes legal defense. They type out a long emotional paragraph confessing their regret, but then their thumb hovers over the send button and a wave of shame washes over them. They delete it because it looks too desperate, too heavy, and they know a Sigma female despises emotional incontinence. They realize that if they come to you looking weak, you will likely recoil, so they backspace until the screen is blank again. Then they swing to the opposite end of the spectrum. They type a simple, casual "hey" or "thinking of you," trying to play it cool, attempting to breeze back into your life as if nothing happened. But then they remember who you are. They remember that you are a woman of depth who sees through superficiality with terrifying precision. They know that a low-effort text will be perceived as an insult to your intelligence. They realize that sending a "hey" to a woman like you is the equivalent of bringing a plastic knife to a gunfight. You will see it as lazy, and you will likely leave them on read without a second thought. This specific fear, the fear of the seen status with no reply, is what freezes their fingers. To be ignored by a Sigma is a fate worse than being yelled at. Anger implies investment. Silence implies irrelevance. They are terrified that if they use the wrong opening line, they will waste their one remaining silver bullet to get back into your good graces. They feel that they have only one shot to break the ice, and if they strike the wrong tone, the glacier will seal shut forever. This anxiety drives them into the Notes app purgatory. They stop typing in the chat box to avoid the accidental slip of a finger and start drafting in a safe, offline space. They construct elaborate messages, editing the grammar, softening the blow, sharpening the wit, trying to engineer the perfect combination of nonchalance and sincerity. They are trying to solve a puzzle that has no clear answer. How do I show her I care without giving her all the power? How do I apologize without losing my dignity? They are stuck in a loop of editing because they are trying to predict the reaction of a woman who is famously unpredictable. They read their own words and hear them in your voice, imagining your skepticism, your raised eyebrow, your silence. This mental simulation is exhausting them. The graveyard of unsent messages on their phone is a testament to how much space you occupy in their mind. They are not silent because they have nothing to say. They are silent because they have too much to say and no idea how to say it in a way that is worthy of the woman who forced them to level up just to be in her presence. 2. The stoic wall. Fear. They think you don't care. The second, and perhaps most formidable barrier preventing them from reaching out, is the terrifying, impenetrable nature of your own composure. The stoic wall. Fear. In the aftermath of a separation or a prolonged silence, most people, especially those with anxious attachment styles, expect a certain degree of public grieving or visible emotional turbulence. They expect to see the cracks in the armor. They look for the telltale signs of a person who is struggling to cope. The sad song lyrics posted to a story at 2 a.m., the sudden influx of revenge body selfies, or the vague passive-aggressive quotes about loyalty and betrayal. These are the breadcrumbs that signal, "I am still hurting, therefore I am still invested." However, the Sigma female operates on a completely different frequency. You do not bleed in public. You do not air your dirty laundry for the algorithm to feast on. Instead, you go dark, or worse, you go normal. You continue to post about your business, your hobbies, or your quiet walks in nature as if nothing catastrophic has happened. To the person watching from the shadows, this stoicism is not read as strength. It is read as total devastating indifference. They look at your digital footprint and your physical demeanor, and they see a woman who has not just moved on, but who has seemingly erased them from the narrative entirely. This stoic wall creates a distortion field in their mind. Because you're not broadcasting your pain, they assume you feel none. They begin to spiral into a crisis of significance, asking themselves, "Did I mean anything to her? Was I just a glitch in her matrix that she patched and forgot?" The silence that you use to heal is interpreted by them as a weapon of erasure. They are terrified to reach out because they are convinced that they will be met with the icy, blank stare of a stranger. They imagine sending a heartfelt text only to receive a polite, confused, or purely transactional response. They fear that the woman they knew, the one who laughed with them and shared secrets, has been replaced by the Ice Queen persona that the world sees. This projection paralyzes them. They cannot bridge the gap between the intimacy you once shared and the cold, fortress-like exterior you now present. Furthermore, this fear is compounded by your self-sufficiency. They see you thriving, getting that promotion, traveling solo, mastering a new skill, and they realize with a sinking heart that you do not need them. For many people, being needed is the primary vehicle for connection. When they see a woman who is completely whole on her own, they feel obsolete. They hesitate to text you because they cannot find a vacancy sign in your life. They look for a void they can fill, but your life looks aggravatingly full. They want to be the hero who saves you from loneliness, but you don't look lonely, you look peaceful. This strikes at the core of their ego. They are scared to knock on your door, not because they think you are angry, but because they are terrified you will open it. Look at them with genuine curiosity and ask, "Why are you here?" The fear that you have outgrown them in the silence is a paralyzing force, keeping their finger hovering over the call button, frozen by the perfection of your own composure. They are trying to lure you out of your silence with weaponized nostalgia, hoping that a shared memory will soften your resolve, enough to open the door they are too terrified to knock on. They are waiting for you to make the first move on a chessboard where they are too afraid to touch their own pieces. Pause for a second. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever seen an ex post a specific song or a quote on their story, knowing it was meant for you to see? It's a classic, cowardly move. If you've spotted the status bait before, leave a comment saying, "I see the trap." Don't let them play games with your peace. 3. The status bait, subliminal messages. Since the paralysis of a direct confrontation is too overwhelming for them, they resort to the modern digital equivalent of throwing pebbles at your bedroom window, the status bait. This is a strategic, often deeply pathetic attempt to communicate with you without incurring the risk of a direct rejection. They weaponize their social media stories, WhatsApp statuses, and profile songs to send encoded messages that only you possess the cipher to decode. To the rest of their followers, the post looks like a random song about heartbreak, a moody photo of a rainy street, or a generic quote about missing what you didn't value until it was gone. But you know better. You recognize the specific lyrics from the track that was playing in the background during your last long drive together. You recognize the obscure movie reference or the philosophical quote that aligns perfectly with a debate you had 3 months ago. This is not a coincidence. It is a laser-guided missile aimed directly at your psychology. They are operating on the coward's principle of plausible deniability. If you were to confront them, they could easily gasp and claim it was just a random post, thereby protecting their fragile ego from the sting of admitting they are still obsessed. But if you ignore it, they spiral into a panic, wondering if you missed the signal entirely or if you saw it and simply didn't care enough to react. This behavior transforms their social media analytics into a high-stakes surveillance operation. They are not posting for their 500 followers. They are posting for an audience of exactly one. They watch the viewed by list with the manic intensity of a stock trader watching a market crash, refreshing the screen every 5 minutes just to see your name or avatar appear at the top. They are desperate for a pulse check. They are terrified that the connection is dead, so they prod it with these digital sticks, hoping for a twitch of life, a like, a reaction emoji, or, in their wildest dreams, a direct reply. They are gambling on your curiosity and your sentimentality. They want you to take the bait so they don't have to take the risk. They want you to be the one to break the ice by responding to their carefully curated, sad content, effectively forcing you to do the emotional heavy lifting of the reconciliation. For a Sigma female who values directness, authenticity, and courage, this passive-aggressive dance is often exhausting and transparent. You see the trap for exactly what it is, a fearful person's way of screaming, "I miss you," without having the spine to stand in the line of fire. They are trying to lure you out of your silence with weaponized nostalgia, hoping that a shared memory will soften your resolve enough to open the door they are too terrified to knock on. They are waiting for you to make the first move on a chessboard, where they are too afraid to touch their own pieces. 4. The orbiting scout, watching without touching. In the silent, high-stakes Cold War of post-breakup communication, the orbiting scout is perhaps the most confusing and paradoxical figure. You know the type. They are the digital ghost haunting the periphery of your online existence. They are consistently the first person to view your Instagram story, often within minutes of you posting it, yet they never leave a like, a comment, or a reaction emoji. They are always there, hovering in the background of your digital life, yet they remain stubbornly silent in your inbox. This behavior, known in modern dating terms as orbiting, is a cowardly but calculated strategy of keeping you in their gravitational pull without ever having to land the spaceship. They are terrified to initiate direct contact because the risk of crashing, of being rejected or ignored, is too high. However, the thought of letting you drift away into the void of total estrangement is equally unbearable. So, they settle for the safe, purgatorial middle ground. They watch. They consume your content with a voracious appetite, using your social media updates as a daily intelligence briefing on the state of your heart. This person is essentially conducting a reconnaissance mission. They are scouring your photos, your captions, and your location tags for clues. They are looking for the answers to the questions they are too afraid to ask you directly. Is she happy? Is she traveling? Has she changed her hair? Is she reading the books I recommended? And, most crucially, is there someone else? When you post a picture of a dinner table with 2 plates, or a vague shot of a coffee cup that isn't yours, they spiral into a panic. They zoom in, analyzing the reflection in a spoon or the shadow on the wall, trying to determine if they have been replaced. They are terrified that if they reach out while you are in a new relationship phase, they will be humiliated. Conversely, they are waiting for a crack in your armor, a sad song, a nostalgic quote, a late-night post that signals vulnerability. They are looking for the perfect tactical window to re-enter your life, but because you are a Sigma female who rarely broadcasts her emotional, messy middle, they can never quite find the opening. Your feed is a curated gallery of strength and mystery, which leaves them starving for real information. This orbiting dynamic creates a strange power imbalance, where they are the spectator and you are the main event. They are relegated to the stands, watching the game of your life play out from the cheap seats while you are on the field scoring points. They want to be a player again, but they don't know if they still have a jersey. The tragedy of the orbiting scout is that they believe their views count as connection. They tell themselves, "I'm still part of her life because I know what she did on Tuesday." But they are deluding themselves. Knowing about you is not the same as knowing you. They are consuming the image of the woman they lost, terrified that the real woman has already evolved beyond their reach. They watch without touching because touching requires courage, and right now they are only brave enough to look. 5. The rejection simulation, playing the worst case. For the person contemplating a return to a Sigma female's life, the greatest obstacle is not the silence of the present, but the terrifyingly vivid simulation of the future rejection. This individual is currently trapped in a mental cinema where the feature presentation is the rejection simulation, playing on an endless, agonizing loop. They know that a Sigma female is not prone to dramatic outbursts or petty games. Her rejection is swift, final, and devastatingly logical. They are haunted by the legendary door slam, the moment when a Sigma decides a connection is no longer viable and simply ceases to engage. The fear of triggering this mechanism is paralyzing. They sit with their phone in hand, visualizing the moment they hit send. In their mind, the text bubble turns green or blue, and then nothing. Or worse, a single cold word, why? Or perhaps the ultimate humiliation, who is this? They replay these scenarios with a level of detail that borders on masochism. They imagine your face as you read their message, not angry, but indifferent. They imagine you showing it to a friend and laughing, or simply deleting it without a second thought. This fear of being dismissed is the primary psychological barrier preventing them from reaching out. This simulation is particularly potent because they know your standards. They are painfully aware that you do not tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or half-hearted efforts. They know that if they come back with a weak apology or a flimsy excuse, you will dissect it with surgical precision. They are terrified that their attempt to reconnect will result in a verbal evisceration, where you calmly list every reason why they are no longer worthy of your time. This fear of being intellectually outmatched and emotionally dismissed keeps them frozen. They would rather live in the purgatory of what if than face the hell of a definitive no. The uncertainty of your silence allows them to maintain a shred of hope, however delusional, that maybe you still care. But a rejection, that kills the fantasy. That confirms once and for all that they blew their chance with a high-value woman. Furthermore, this rejection simulation often extends to a fear of public humiliation. They worry that if they reach out and you reject them, you might share the exchange, or worse, use it as fuel for your own growth narrative. They are terrified of becoming a footnote in your success story, the ex who tried to come back when you were winning and got shut down. This ego preservation instinct is powerful. They want to be the one who got away, not the one who came crawling back. So they stay silent, paralyzed by the fear that the bridge they burned is now guarded by a dragon they cannot slay. They are stuck in a state of suspended animation, wanting desperately to cross the chasm but terrified that the moment they step onto the bridge you will cut the ropes and watch them fall. 6. The energy check, asking mutuals. When the direct route to your inbox feels like walking through a minefield, the person who misses you will inevitably attempt a flank maneuver, the energy check. This involves the strategic recruitment of mutual friends, acquaintances, or even family members to act as unwitting intelligence agents in their quest to gauge your emotional temperature. They are too terrified to knock on your front door, so they start asking the neighbors if the lights are on. This behavior usually manifests in a deceptively casual manner. They will arrange a coffee date or send a text to a mutual contact under the guise of catching up, but the entire interaction is a Trojan horse for one specific agenda, gathering data on the Sigma female. They will spend 20 minutes talking about the weather, their job, or sports, waiting for the perfect, socially acceptable moment to drop the, "Oh, by the way, have you seen her lately?" bomb. This is not idle curiosity. It is a desperate attempt to conduct a risk assessment before they make a move. They are fishing for very specific, high-value information that they cannot get from your social media. They want to know the things that only a real-life interaction can reveal. Does she look happy? Is she stressed? Has she mentioned me at all? Is she seeing anyone new? They are looking for a safety report. They treat you like a dormant volcano, and they are sending in a scientist to see if there is any seismic activity before they decide to set up camp at the base. They are hoping against hope that the mutual friend will slip up and say something like, "Yeah, she was actually asking about you the other day," or "She seems a bit lonely." To them, this information would be the green light they need to bypass their fear and send the text. Conversely, they are terrified of the red light, the news that you are thriving, glowing, and haven't spoken their name in months. Furthermore, this strategy serves a dual purpose. It is also a way of planting a seed in your garden without having to hop the fence. They know that human nature dictates the mutual friend will eventually report back to you. "Hey, I saw name today, and he was asking about you." This is a calculated ripple effect. They want you to know they are thinking about you, but they want to maintain the safety of plausible deniability. If you react badly to the news, they can claim they were just being polite. If you react well, they have an opening. It is a cowardly but common tactic used by people who are intimidated by a Sigma's directness. They are trying to outsource the emotional risk of the reconnection to a third party. They want to test the waters of your forgiveness without getting their own feet wet. However, for a Sigma female who values courage and straightforward communication, finding out that someone is asking about you instead of talking to you is often more annoying than endearing. It highlights their hesitation and proves that they are still intimidated by the power dynamic, preferring to whisper in the shadows rather than speak to the queen. It's frustrating, isn't it? When they have the nerve to ask your friends about your life but won't send a simple text to you, drop a detective emoji in the comments if a mutual friend has ever snitched and told you, "Hey, he was asking about you." It just proves you are living rent-free in their head. 7. The apology rehearsal, figuring out the narrative. In the quiet moments of their day, while driving to work or standing in the shower, the person who misses you is currently engaged in a high-stakes mental theater production, the apology rehearsal. They are painfully aware that re-entering the orbit of a Sigma female is not as simple as sending a casual "my bad" text or a bouquet of flowers with a generic card. They know that you operate on a level of intellectual rigor and emotional depth that renders standard apologies obsolete. You do not accept surface-level excuses, you demand root cause analysis. Consequently, they are spending days, perhaps even weeks, trying to construct a narrative that is robust enough to withstand your scrutiny. They are terrified that if they come to you with a flimsy explanation for their silence or their behavior, you will dismantle it with a single, well-placed question. They are not just preparing to say sorry, they are preparing for a cross-examination. They know that you will ask why, and they are terrified that they do not have an answer that is good enough to satisfy your logic. This rehearsal process is exhausting them. They draft mental scripts, play out the conversation in their head, and then scrap the whole thing because they hear your voice pointing out the holes in their story. They imagine saying, "I was just busy," and immediately cringe because they know you will see that as a lack of prioritization, not a lack of time. They imagine saying, "I was scared," and fear you will lose respect for their cowardice. They are trapped in a loop of trying to find the perfect apology, one that acknowledges their fault without destroying their dignity, and one that honors your intelligence without sounding overly calculated. They are trying to thread a needle with shaking hands. They know that a Sigma female values authenticity above all else, but they are struggling to be authentic because the truth, that they were intimidated, confused, or immature, makes them look weak. So they continue to polish the script, hoping to find the magic combination of words that will unlock your forgiveness. The delay in their communication is not a sign of indifference, it is a sign of this frantic preparation. They are trying to lawyer up against their own guilt before they face the judge. They respect you too much to come to you unprepared. They want to present a version of events that makes sense, that shows growth, and that proves they have spent their time apart reflecting on their actions. However, this perfectionism is a double-edged sword. By waiting until they have the perfect speech, they are prolonging the silence, which in turn requires an even better apology to explain the delay. They are stuck in a spiral of their own making, terrified to speak until they are sure they won't stutter, unaware that you would likely respect a messy, honest truth far more than a polished, rehearsed lie. They are rehearsing a monologue for an audience of one, terrified that when the curtain finally rises, you might have already left the theater. 8. The telepathic tug they feel you pulling. For a Sigma female and the person who deeply regrets losing her, the most inexplicable and unnerving barrier to reconnection is often not physical or emotional, but spiritual, the telepathic tug. You have both likely felt it. It is that sudden, visceral sensation where you think of them intensely out of nowhere, or you wake up from a dream about them so vivid it feels like a visitation. This is not a coincidence. It is a manifestation of the energetic bond you forged. Even in silence, the connection remains active. The person on the other end feels this tug as a literal physical pull in their chest. They will be going about their day, driving, working, or laughing with friends, and suddenly be overcome with an overwhelming urge to reach out to you. It is as if you are psychically summoning them. They pick up their phone, their heart racing, convinced that you are thinking about them at that exact moment. But then, just as quickly, they freeze. They question their sanity. They wonder if they are projecting their own desire onto reality. Is she really thinking about me, or am I just obsessed? This uncertainty creates a maddening feedback loop. They want to trust the intuition that you are open to hearing from them, but the logical part of their brain, the part that knows your boundaries and your silence, shuts it down. They are terrified of misinterpreting the signal. Imagine reaching out because you felt a vibes check, only to be met with cold indifference. The embarrassment would be crushing. So, they sit with the feeling, letting it wash over them like a wave, paralyzed by the fear that the telepathic connection is one-sided. They want to believe that you are sitting on your bed, staring at the same moon, wishing they would call. But without confirmation, they remain trapped in the maybe. This hesitation is tragic because often the Sigma female is thinking of them. She is sending out a silent beacon, hoping they are brave enough to follow the light. But their fear of rejection overrides their spiritual instinct. Furthermore, this telepathic tug is often accompanied by synchronicities that they cannot ignore. They see your name everywhere. They hear your favorite song 3 times in a day. They run into someone who looks exactly like you. The universe seems to be conspiring to force a confrontation, but they interpret these signs as taunts rather than invitations. They think, the universe is messing with me because I lost her. They are scared to act on the cosmic nudges because they feel unworthy of the magic. They assume that a woman as powerful as you has probably cut the energetic cord and moved on to higher frequencies, leaving them to wrestle with the static alone. They don't realize that the static is actually the sound of you waiting. They feel the pull, but they lack the faith to jump, leaving both of you suspended in a state of mutual silent longing. That telepathic connection is rare. If you have ever felt that sudden, unexplainable pull to check your phone right when they were thinking of you, hit the subscribe button right now. We are building a community of women who are tuned into their intuition and know their worth. Join the top 1%. 9. The self-improvement delay, trying to level up. The final and perhaps most poignant reason for the radio silence between you and the person who desperately wants to talk is rooted in a profound sense of personal inadequacy. The self-improvement delay. This person is not avoiding you because they don't care. They are avoiding you because they know, with agonizing clarity, that they are not yet good enough for you. A Sigma female acts as a relentless, unforgiving mirror to everyone she encounters. Simply by existing in your authenticity, high standards and self-sufficiency, you force others to confront their own mediocrity. When the relationship ended or the distance began, this person took a hard look at themselves and realized they were punching above their weight class. They saw their lack of ambition, their emotional immaturity, or their financial instability reflected in your eyes. Consequently, they have made a conscious decision to delay reaching out until they have something substantial to show for their time away. They are currently in a cocoon phase, frantically trying to level up their life so they can re-enter your orbit not as a supplicant, but as an equal. This behavior manifests in a sudden, almost obsessive drive for self-betterment that you might catch glimpses of from afar. They are hitting the gym with a vengeance, trying to sculpt a physique that commands respect. They are burying themselves in their career, chasing promotions, or starting side hustles to secure the financial stability they know you value. They are reading books on psychology, going to therapy, or cutting off toxic friends, all things you likely encouraged them to do when you were together. They are not doing this just for themselves. They are doing it to curate a new avatar to present to you. They are terrified that if they text you now, while they are still the same version of the person you walked away from, you will simply sigh and close the door again. They know that a Sigma female does not do backward movement. You do not revisit the past unless it has something new to offer. Therefore, they are treating the silence as a training montage. They want to be able to say, "Look, I changed, I listened, I am ready now." The tragedy of the self-improvement delay is that it often keeps them away longer than necessary. They fall into the trap of perfectionism, believing they need to be a finished product before they are worthy of saying hello. They worry that while they are busy fixing themselves, you will meet someone else who is already whole. But the fear of disappointing you again is stronger than the fear of losing you to another. They would rather stay silent and work in the shadows than come back and expose their lingering flaws to your laser-like scrutiny. They want their return to be a grand reveal, a 2.0 launch that leaves you impressed and willing to reconsider. They are holding their breath, counting reps and stacking wins, all in the hope that when they finally do reach out, they will be the kind of man or woman who can stand next to a Sigma female without casting a shadow on her light. They are staying away to build a version of themselves that is finally strong enough to stay. The air between you is thick with unsaid words, a static charge that crackles every time you look at your phone. The tension is undeniable, and the desire to bridge the gap is mutual. You know they are thinking of you, just as you are thinking of them. However, in this critical moment of suspension, you must anchor yourself in the absolute truth of your dynamic. You are the prize. This is not arrogance. It is an energetic fact. You have done the work to become a woman of substance, depth, and self-sufficiency. Therefore, you do not need to break the silence to make it easier for them. To initiate contact now would be to rob them of their necessary evolution. It would be stepping down from your throne to hold the hand of a commoner who is afraid to approach the court. You must understand that their hesitation is a test, not of your patience, but of their courage. If they want to talk to you, they must conquer the fear that is currently paralyzing them. They must look at the terrifying possibility of your rejection and decide that the risk is worth the reward. If you text them first, you are effectively removing the obstacle they need to climb to prove their worth. You are lowering the drawbridge for someone who hasn't even proven they can swim the moat. You have spent months, perhaps years, building a castle of peace. Your life is now a sanctuary of high standards, emotional stability, and guarded boundaries. If they want to enter that sanctuary, they have to knock on the door loud enough for you to hear it. They have to announce their presence and state their intentions. Do not make the mistake of lowering the bridge just because you feel a pang of loneliness. Wait to see if they are brave enough to jump into the cold water and swim toward you. This act of reaching out is their initiation rite. It is the only way they can demonstrate that they respect the gravity of the situation. If they are too cowardly to send a simple text because they are afraid of a door slam, then they are certainly too weak to handle the intensity of a relationship with a Sigma female. You must remain still. Let the silence do the heavy lifting. Let the silence amplify their longing until it becomes unbearable. Because if they truly value you, if they truly see you as the rare, irreplaceable woman that you are, their fear of losing you forever will eventually become bigger than their fear of your reaction. That is the tipping point you are waiting for. Until they reach that breaking point, anything they say would be half-hearted anyway. So hold your ground, keep your peace, and watch the horizon. If they are worthy, they will come. If they are not, the silence will protect you from their weakness. If you are currently waiting for someone to find the courage to text you, drop an hourglass in the comments below. Trust divine timing and never lower your price. Thanks for watching, and as always, welcome to the top 1%.